Hi. Um, so you know when someone makes what's supposed to be just like a small innocent joke and then the other person, rather than take it as a light-hearted joke, perhaps takes it a little bit too much to heart, and then that light teasing becomes something that, like 2 weeks later, suddenly the person's like, I'm gonna have to make a video about this, because that really hurt. So, 2 weeks ago, Dan was talking to me and he accused me of being uncreative. And that hurt. It hurt enough that there is a video about it now, this thing that you're watching, because I think I am creative. And I pride myself in that, so to be called not creative hurt. So the reason that Dan said this is we were talking about a video game, in particular EverQuest Landmark, Next Landmark, something along those lines. And it's sort of a Minecraft 2 we've called it, sort of thing. And it's one of these make your own fun games, the design your own things or create your own rules. And this just really isn't my forte. Like, I'm good. No, let's stick with what I'm talking about. I'm not good at that. I'm not good at the, like, Dan being able to go, I'll do skeet shooting by having a rocket launcher on that building and someone drives cars up here in GTA and we'll have a great fun. Like, that's not me. When I play GTA, I play through the storyline and to unlock the next mission and make money. Like, it's not a... For me, I want to play the characters that I've been given, and I am just a more linear person. Like, I like, in a game, to be given a world, given a set of instructions, a set of puzzles, a set of characters, and to play with those, but in a way that by experiencing that art form, I'm experiencing what I have been given to experience. So that when I say, hey, Portal was really fun when things happened in Portal, that is something like the funny lines of dialogue, like, oh, and the moment with the companion cube was just like... I can share that with lots of people, and it was a very poignant moment, but a moment that everyone who went through that game had, whereas I couldn't say, oh, you know that time in GTA where you go ski shooting with the cars, or suddenly you have to jump off of a building and land in that aeroplane flying down, because that only happens if you're playing with Dan. And in this particular case, I feel that speaks a lot more to Dan's creativity than mine. But the point still stands, I'm not that sort of person, and added on to that, this isn't the first time it's come up in the last 2 weeks. Like, I also went to go and see the Lego Movie, and I don't want to give you any spoilers because it's a great movie and I really recommend it. But it kind of has this sticking to the rules, following the instructions is a bad thing. And I always follow the instructions. That's who I am. I'm not a let's get a whole load of Lego and build whatever, which Dan is. I'm a you get a whole load of Lego and you get a rule book. And that's what you do. You build the Lego from the rulebook. And then... Sorry, I've just noticed the sun's gone down and the stupid lighting. I'm going to keep going. But the reason it's slightly red now is because stupid nature... Okay, so now looking very moody. Yes, stupid nature. So the point was, I'm very bad at that. It came up again in the Lego Movie. The new Star Wars Rebels has started to release some new stuff, and there's this cool female Mandalorian they've just announced as a cool new female character, and she does lots of painting on things and paints her own icons on things and graffiti stuff, as well as, blowing things up in a way that a cool Mandalorian warrior should. But she's doing those things, and they're saying, oh, it's really nice to see someone who's more artistically inclined in the Star Wars universe, and there's me thinking, I don't do any of that. I'm a rule follower. I like things to be pure. I don't even like things being signed, because, like, if it was meant to have a signature on it, it would have had a signature in it. And some of my comics do have people's signatures in as the second cover to say this is who wrote it, printed in the proper ink as opposed to being signed afterwards. And for me, if it's supposed to be in there, it should be in there, and if it's not supposed to be in there, it's not supposed to be in there. It's a fully sealed unit. I don't want it to be drawn over. I like things in that original condition, and I like things to follow the rules, and this all makes me feel very much like, you know, he has a point. Like, I don't have that level of creativity. I don't have that. I've always struggled in improv, you sit down and someone says, create a character, go. And I always fail at that. And because I can't just sit down and go, here's a guy, he's called Fred, and he's a construction worker. And I know that the only reason I've said construction worker is because we were talking about the Lego Movie, and I've just basically come up with Emmett instead. So these are not my strong suit. And yet, at the same time, I feel that I am creative. But I clearly don't have any of this personalisation creation. I don't like personalising things. I like things to be the way that they are. And if I create things, I like to create things from scratch. Like, as an example, recently, I was trying to create something. I thought, oh, I should probably... I would like to make this in 3D. But the thing that I wanted to create, I wanted to make humans who had good detail in their faces and things, which is a very bad project to start off with when you're learning how to model, animate, and integrate things all together. And I needed a small project to work on beforehand. And I said, I know, I'll come up with something else which is simpler, something which doesn't have to be spot on, so something that can be a bit more geometric and basic, but also has elements of hair and clothing so that I could replicate those things. And I thought I'll make some sort of Muppet creature. And then me being me, within 24 hours, without really putting any effort, then had a whole world for these creatures to live in. So for me, I said I wanted to come up with a variety of creatures, so rather than just say, hey, let's do let's just do a new race, I thought, let's come up with 3 new races and see these 3 races trying to play with each other. So I tried to come up with a more intelligent one, a more agile one, and one that's slightly stronger, and ones that could all travel around as one single unit, and try and say, hey, what if we had a race which really did... these 3 races all grew up together and have evolved together as a collection and as a collective, and how would that affect them, and how would that create them, and how would those things evolve? And so I came up with 3 very different creatures. The first of the group to come up, I decided, would be this sort of a gorilla-esque kangaroo type creature. I wanted it to have these big strong arms so that it could swing from tree to tree. Then I like the idea of having a pouch like the kangaroos do, because I thought a lot of things evolve and gain higher intelligence by using tools, and the idea of having a pocket that you could not only store your babies in, but you could also store rocks and tools in, seemed to me like something that would really rapidly increase the ability at which you could learn. And because of that, it clearly is going to become a matriarchal society, because if women are the ones who grow up with the packets on their front, pouches even, most animal races have the female looking after the child, but then they'll have all of the tools, and that allows them to set up traps and things, which means they become a very female-dominant society. They're very arm-heavy because they used to hang from tree to tree, so they're not very strong on their hind quarters, because the hands are the things that have always been important, but it means they're very good at being able to do that thing. And then if they were trying to develop, they would need something else. And because I decided it was going to be a slightly smaller creature, I like the idea of sort of a dog or a panther type creature who could then be sort of slightly intelligent, but only intelligent because it had evolved to become so. So unlike the other ones who had really high education and high understanding, this was a creature who, very much in the same way that we trained wolves to become dogs, sort of in a similar situation, only it was sort of a horse, somewhere between horse and household pet. So slightly cute, but also quite strong and capable of pulling items so that they could use it. And because these guys were very bad at being able to move things around, they very early had to, because they were only swinging around, then their ability to make wheels and pull things around on wheels very early became a problem for them. So they started growing and capturing other creatures early on. So we ended up with that second type, and then as the third type was sort of the outsider who came in, who was the more agile. I like the idea of sort of flying squirrel-like creature because I wanted something that could climb and get into those other places. And that came in as a third race, and that sort of did the middle management. And then because of that, I liked the idea that these three had evolved. Then when I started doing this, I realised, of course, that I had started to pick up the three main personality types as put out by Freud. So I started to try and build that a bit more into them. So, you know, the idea that there's a super ego, so that the really smart guys who care about science and art and don't actually do very much other than be smarty pants and sit around and go, "Oh, I'll play a song for you while you go and do all of the stuff that I've told you to." And believes in the perfect world and doesn't actually do as much of the hard work, but does a lot of the thinking and does a lot of the trying to place things. And then if you look at the middle one, the squirrel-like creature, you know, that was very much the balancing act, which is what the ego balances, the super ego and the id. And then the id being the animal primal actions, and that's what I wanted for this sort of very loyal but very basic creature who could only really communicate because communication had become a tool, but they didn't even have hands, they only had paws, so they can't grab things, they have no tool set, they have no connections. But it then meant that you could have this sort of wolf-like creature and then the two other guys riding on their back. And that was my general concept, and I feel that coming up with that as an idea for a fantasy world, just as something that was in my head and sitting at the back of my head for a day or two, without even trying to create it for anything, shows that I'm on some level creative. Like, I have seen enough people come up with fantasy worlds where fantasy means giant spiders and elves and maybe a dwarf or two. Like, you know, I feel that there's so little creativity put into those things that for me to come up with ideas of creatures, which I'm not saying they're the most original creatures, but they're definitely significantly different from other things, so that I feel that I do have that sort of creativity in spades. But at the same time, Dan has a point. I don't like games where I have to make my own fun. If I wanted to make my own fun in a game, I'd learn C++ and probably use some Unity or some... I've forgotten what the other engine is, but Epic's one. Unreal, and I would learn them and make my own games. Because I'm not very good at that halfway point. I'm the sort of person who can come up with something from an end point, a goal, this is where it came from, or if it's something went through this, and it comes up with very unique ideas because I'm growing something inside my head from a standing point or a finish point. But for the sort of general gist of things, I just don't have that, oh, here's a blank page, I can draw pretty borders around it and things. And no, for me, I either know exactly what that page has got to be. As in, if it was a poster or something, I would start mapping out and having the whole image in my head from the beginning. Or I would just want it to be made for me. I don't like that middle step of, oh, I'll take some of it, take a whole load of pre-standing things and try and put them together, and it's just, I don't know. One of those things that really annoyed me, and I think it's that there is a different sort of creativity between sort of that personalization and that organically growing things, and it's not something I'd particularly thought about before, but is clearly something that's there, because I think I do very well in one, but at the same time I definitely don't do as well in the other. So I thought I'd spout that thought at you. What is the different sorts of creativity that we have? Let me know in the comment section. Yes, I should get back to reading comment sections. Yes. It's been a while, I'm sorry. I'll do a different video on me being sorry and what I'm doing. So yes, put a comment in the comment section. Tell me what sort of creativity do you do well at. If you think there are types of creativity that you're not so good at. And yeah, I'll try and get back to you. Bye! This lighting's awful. Seriously, son. It's clouds. Stupid clouds.